Welcome back, and in this segment we will be talking about how Egypt is meant or set to be an energy hub and the means of the development of the energy sector in Egypt. And we're joined in the studio by Dr. Hafiz Al-Salmawi, and he is former director of the Egyptian Electricity Regulatory Agency, as well as also a professor of energy. Welcome with us, Doctor.
Thank you.
Morning, sir. Well, starting with the directives that have been given by President al-Sisi to the Minister of Petroleum, actually on the necessity of converting the country to a center for the support and trade of energy, especially after the great natural gas discoveries that have took place actually recently. Could you elaborate on this and how far this will improve the current situation in Egypt?
Yes. Actually, I may say that when Dr. Gamal Hamdan wrote his valuable book about character of Egypt, and he entitled or subtitled the first volume that Genius of Location of Egypt, actually when we talk on Egypt as an energy hub, we are not so far from what Dr. Hamdan has mentioned 40 years ago. Egypt has an excellent position at the crossroad of trades. Actually, when we talk, an energy hub is basically meaning that a place where you can import, export, produce, consume, store energy. And Egypt basically have all these kind of means. Furthermore, an energy hub, you should have a suitable infrastructure as well as suitable legal framework. And I believe the three items of excellent location, developed infrastructure, as well as suitable frameworks all exist in Egypt, which makes that Egypt could be an energy hub or a potential energy hub. As you mentioned, as recently a large quantities of gas has been discovered, so we are producing. And we was producing before also. We are exporting, we was exporting. We are now importing and have facilities for importing for the natural gas. But when I talk on energy hub, it's not just limited for natural gas. We are energy hub for petroleum, for natural gas, as well for electricity. For petroleum, we have Suez Canal, which is one of the largest passages in the world for petroleum. Actually, 7% of the total petroleum trade in the world has already passed by Suez Canal. Also, we have Summit Pipeline, where you have to pass through petroleum as well as petroleum products through a pipeline which extends from Sokhna on the Red Sea to the Sidi Krir on the Mediterranean, where you have 3 million ton capacity where you can, 3 million barrel of petroleum where you can pass it every day. Not only that, but Summit already have a storage farm at both in the Red Sea as well as on the Mediterranean, where you can respond to the other markets as soon as possible because you already have a large storage. This is regarding petroleum. Also, we have a large industry for petroleum refineries, and we are old in this business for a long period. For gas, as you mentioned, we are now have large fields of gas, and there is much more strong potential for this field, specifically in the Eastern Mediterranean in general. We already have an agreement with Cyprus or a process for developing an agreement of Cyprus, so we can connect the Cyprus field of Aphrodite to our network where we have already facilities to export natural gas through liquefaction facilities. We have it in Damietta as well as in Etko. Also, we now have a facility to import liquefied natural gas in Sokhna. So we can import, we can export, we can trade. Also, we have the gas pipeline which extends from Egypt to Jordan, Syria. It's reached now to Homs, but the full project is expected to be extended to connected with the gas pipelines which is passed through Turkey, which is coming from Azerbaijan and Turkmenia. So it can go directly to Europe through a pipelines. So this is gas. For electricity, we have also very strong position. We have a very advanced electricity network, which is considered maybe the fifth and might be soon becoming the fourth or the third one around the Mediterranean, the second largest in Africa and the second largest in the Arab world after Saudi Arabia. We have interconnection with both Jordan, Syria, Lebanon. We have a new interconnection which will be inaugurated in 2019 with Saudi Arabia, 3,000 megawatt, which is very huge connection. We have connection to Libya, which is supposed to be part of the Mediterranean ring. And also there is a studies which has been executed regarding what we call it an African corridor, which extend from Egypt to Sudan to maybe Ethiopia, which was a part of the Nile Basin Initiative, and maybe part of the package deal on Nahda Dam or Renaissance Dam. Also, there is some maybe in future project which is Grand Inga. A Grand Inga project is basically a high dam, a dam which is expected to be built in Congo, where the Congo River, one of the largest river, and expected that a potential of 40 gigawatt of generation of hydro capacity could be generated. And the planned interconnection, one of them is going from Congo to Central Africa, Sudan, and Egypt. To export this energy to Europe, clean energy, or being used in Egypt, also it's this one of the strategic projects. So we have a potential for oil, gas, and electricity to become an energy hub.
Yes. What about renewable energy? How far are we advanced in that field?
I think Egypt has already advanced,
yes.
But also has a very strong potential in this. We have I could say, unlimited resources of renewable energy, specifically in solar energy. Wind energy, we have very strong resources. We have currently around 750 megawatt of wind energy plants. The expected plans that we're going to have before 2022 around 6,000 megawatt of wind plants. Also solar, we have very strong potential, part of the feed-in tariff program, which already announced 2 years ago, that we're going to build 2,000 megawatt of wind, which is a part of the 6,000, and 2,000 megawatt, 2,300 megawatt of solar plants. And this is going on. Already now, 10 investors are in a process for assigning their contracts, and already 37 investors are in the process for the second round for the feed-in tariff. So it's going on. Also for distributed solar systems, I think now it's become a fact. Many facilities already now have their top solar roofs already in operation, being connected. And we have a completed legal framework as well as a technical codes and standards for it. So I think it's all the needed ingredients now in place, and I think there could be a very strong boost toward in future which will take place. But I think there is a very strong now plan up to 2022 to achieve around 20% of our electricity production coming from renewable.
Talking about also the idea of having or making Egypt to be the main support actually or source of low emission energy. Because we were talking before about the climate change and how far or how important it is, and we can see the awareness now in Egypt because we have been taking this into consideration, attending all climate change conferences on international level. The president actually also is keen to participate in this, and we are keen to participate actually and to have the support and to take benefit of the expertise, international expertise in this respect.
Actually, Egypt has a very strong potential also in this dimension. As we was talking about that, we already now have good resources of natural gas. Actually, natural gas is being defined as a low emitting or some of clean fuels which is being used. Actually, the reforms which is taking place so far in the power sector, where is being upgraded, new plants is being added, very high efficiency plants is being added. The recent agreement with Germany about the 3 new plants, which is expected the president might open partially part of them by next March, are very efficient plants which have low impact on the environment. also as improving the energy efficiency and more demand for energy efficiency, not just for climate change, but also for increasing the competitiveness of the Egyptian economy, as energy normally represents a substantial part of production costs. So as you have becoming more energy efficient, you become more competitive in the market. And I think Egypt already has accumulated a good experience. Yes, there is still a lot of efforts need to be added, but already Egypt has accumulated a good experience, and Egypt could also share some of this experience with other African countries, because also there is a very strong potential in Africa, and even in some countries where already the energy sector is not yet fully developed, it's a very good chance to start and build it based on an environmentally clean or environmentally friendly approach. So I think Egypt has something to do, either internally or externally, with other African neighbors countries.
Yes, Doctor, how can we boost Egypt's energy resources? Like, is it just in new discoveries, or should we also be aware of rationalizing our energy? And are there certain ways of recycling energy as well, or it's not there?
All of this, yes. Basically, you need to have new discoveries. Actually, we have what we call it Egypt strategy, sustainable energy strategy for 2035. So we have already clear strategy 20 years ahead, and already this has been adopted by the Supreme Council of Energy last October. And part of this strategy, what we call it a security of supply, as well as sustainability. So a security of supply means that you need to secure your supply of energy.
I think
so
we have also, I'm sorry to interrupt, we have the map actually of the
yes,
Arab
this
pipelines.
is,
Yes, this is
the
important.
project which I was talking about. So there is 2 interconnection lines which are coming from Congo. Yes, this is strategic. This is a long-term project, but basically this is could give a kind of tapping to a clean energy from Central Africa to Egypt, as well as beyond to some other countries, which is basically will help both in enabling energy as well as in combating climate change, because now we are resorting on clean energy, which is hydro energy, and Egypt and Africa is quite wealthy country or continent with this kind of energy. Back to your question about, so you need to have new discoveries, because you need to have resources, you need to diversify the resources, and we need to look for energy efficiency as a resource for energy. It's not just to conserve energy, but it's a, we could call it a negative resource of energy. So instead of using more energy, you could conserve energy. So this is considered as a resource of energy. And already this strategy has emphasized very much on both diversifying as well as enhancing existing resources, as well as more and more relying on energy efficiency and renewable energy as a way for having more sustainable kind of approach for energy development.
Well, the idea of the renewable energy is that all of these projects are long-term projects, actually. But maybe here we would like to know the current situation in Egypt. Where are we? And when can we start to feel the change, actually?
Actually, it's not becoming that too long.
It's not that far anymore.
Yes, sure. Actually, as I said, we have already 750 megawatt of wind plants. And 2022, which is a short term, I believe, that expected that this becoming around 6,000 using different mechanisms. Yes, this is, Egypt looks like an energy hub, how Egypt is being in the middle of different energy pools. So we have on the top is the European pool, we have on the west is the Maghreb country pool, and we have in the east is the East Mediterranean pool, some other Arab countries in addition to other countries. Also we have on the right, I don't know, it's right or left now, it's clear, the Gulf countries through the interconnection I mentioned between Egypt and Saudi Arabia. So we began to be connected with the Gulf countries. And we have in this house what we call it the African dimension. So Egypt basically is a node which is connected all this kind of a pool, which is give Egypt a chance to be an energy hub. Sure, yani, this is a relative advantage where Egypt is the crossroad of all these interconnections. So back to the question about renewable energy, I mean that it's in the short term, we expect that we could reach around 6,000 of wind energy.
You started to feel this in the new cities under construction.
Yes, actual new cities, in addition to a dedicated large plants like the site in Bimban in Aswan, we're expected to be including 2,000 megawatt of, yes, this is the African interconnect. It's not clear to me. Yes, this is the Mediterranean.
The map, yes.
Mediterranean supergrid, what we call it, which include Egypt is a part, a very important part where we be connected, part of the Mediterranean ring, connected to the east, to the west, as well as there is a project which expected might be under evaluation, which is from Egypt to Crete to mainland. It's a very challenging project because the Mediterranean is very deep in this, in the eastern part of it, beyond 2 kilometers deep. But this could be one of the potential, or what we call it, a corridor. And we was clean to call it green corridor for Egypt, because it was expected that could be a part of renewable energy which is being produced in Egypt could be exported through this corridor. Yes, this is need a lot of arrangement in future, but still this is a kind of a potential project to be considered. So I mean, for renewable energy, there is a potential for local consumption, there is a potential to be exported, and as it been mentioned in the previous session, that renewable energy now become competitive to conventional energy, and actually prices going down, and this give more chance for developing this sector in the future.
Now, Doctor, the Minister of Petroleum, Tariq Al-Mulla, announced last month that the gas fields of Zohr, Atul, and North Alexandria will start this year. Now, how could that boost us in terms of energy, boost Egypt in terms of energy and becoming a hub? And now, do we need to really make all our various natural gas fields work so that we can sustain our energy or maintain energy? Or do we need to conserve some and then open others? How should it work?
Actually, Egypt is not just a producer for gas. Egypt is a very huge consumer of gas also. And reforms which is taking place also in the electricity sector and in other sectors rely more and more on gas. Actually, gas gives a better chance where some of very high efficiency plants, which is called combined cycle plant, normally use natural gas, which have two advantages. First, is very high efficiency, so you produce more electricity with less gas, as well as it has less environmental impact. So we need plenty of gas. We suffered a shortage of gas over the last 4 or 5 years, and we start to import gas, although we previously was one of the exporting countries of gas. So we now first need to recover our situation that to be a self-sufficient of a gas. Our energy demand is growing quite fast, and if the economy, as we hope, is moving forward in recently and in future, I think we will need much more energy resources. So we are in need for these resources, not just for consuming, but not necessarily for exporting, but at least we might export part of it. Yes, according to the strategy, this will be considered that how much you need to conserve for future and how much you need to consume. But at least you need to satisfy your needs of energy. But as a shortage which has been happened, and at that time we don't have the infrastructure to import gas, now we have this infrastructure. We might not need it for importing gas for our use, but we can import gas and then re-export it back. As I mentioned, the connection with Cyprus, we have facilities which was used previously for liquefaction and exporting gas. We might not need to export our gas, but we could pass the gas from Cyprus to be exported through using our facilities. Actually, I would also notify for a very important study which is carried by the Arab League, which was an integration of electricity and gas network in the Arab countries. And one of the very important projects which has been shown that are quite feasible, that a connection pipeline between Libya and Egypt for a natural gas. This could be also used for not just being consumed in Egypt, but also being using the facilities on Egypt for exporting this gas, either through the liquefaction plant or through the gas pipeline, the Arab gas pipeline. So a lot of potential is available, and we need to first satisfy our need. Back to your question, need to satisfy, but sure, we need to conserve part of the gas for the next generation.
Well, energy is a long, big topic, and it needs long hours and many hours to discuss, but unfortunately, we have to wrap today's episode. Thank you very much, Dr. Hafez Al-Salmawi, the former director of the Egyptian Electricity Regulatory Agency, as well as Professor of Energy. Thank you very much for this interview.
Thank you very much for having me.
And that would bring us to the end of this episode of Breakfast Show. But first of all, I have to thank my colleague and friend, Nashwa Rashid. Thank you very much.
Rasha. Thank you all for joining us in this episode of our Breakfast Show. And remember to join us again tomorrow, same time, with more on our show. Till then, stay tuned for more coming up on Nile TV International.